Gametogenesis is the process by which you make gametes for both males and females. It's called spermatogenesis in males and oogenesis in females. In males, all of them involve two meiotic divisions, mitosis and differentiation. Um, in spermatogenesis, cells called spermatogonia differentiate into spermatozoa, and this occurs in the seminiferous tubules, and this is due to their development. In females, you have oogenesis occurring mostly in the ovaries, and it occurs in arrested stages. So first you have the oogonium before natal development, and then you have the first oocyte, and then puberty, and then the second oocyte, and then finally fertilization to make the ovum. Yeah.
So, in human fertilization, there's three steps: capacitation, acrosome reaction, and the cortical reaction. So, in capacitation, chemicals released by the uterus dissolve the sperm's cholesterol coat, and that improves sperm motility, meaning that the sperm is more likely to reach the egg in the oviduct. And it also destabilizes the acrosome cap, which is necessary for the acrosome reaction to occur when the egg and sperm come into contact. Then there's the acrosome reaction, which is basically when the sperm reaches the egg. The acrosome reaction allows the sperm to break through the jelly coat. So the sperm pushes through the follicular cells of the corona radiata and binds to the zona pellucida, which is the jelly coat. So then the acrosome vesicle fuses with the jelly coat and releases digestive enzymes. So that softens the glycoprotein matrix. So then the sperm can push its way through the softened jelly coat and bind to exposed docking proteins on the egg membrane. And then the membrane of the egg and the sperm fuse, and then the sperm nucleus enters the egg cell. Then the cortical reaction happens, which is basically when once a sperm has successfully penetrated an egg cell in order to prevent polyspermy. So cortical granules from the cytoplasm of the egg are release enzymes via exocytosis into the jelly coat, and those enzymes destroy the sperm binding sites and thicken and harden the glycoprotein matrix to prevent other sperm from being able to penetrate the egg, which would be polyspermy. So that ensures that the zygote forms is diploid.
Blastocyst is so when the egg and sperm nuclei combine, they form the zygote, and then the zygote will undergo several meiotic divisions to form the morula. After that divides and undergoes differentiation and cavitation, it forms the blastocyst. The blastocyst is then comprised of three different sections, which would be the inner cell mass, then the surrounding outer layer, which is kind of the trophoblast, and then the inside it has this fluid-filled cavity, which is the blastocoele. And then this is in the final stages of the early embryo development, and the implantation of the blastocyst happens in the endometrial lining of the uterus. So when this blastocyst reaches the jelly coating that was surrounding it, it prevents the attachment to the endometrium, and so the digestive enzyme will then release, which degrades the endometrial lining, which autocrine hormones released from the blastocyst trigger its implantation into the uterine wall. And once that happens, the blastocyst is embedded within the uterine wall, and it can move on to the next stage of embryogenesis. And so then the growing embryo will gain oxygen and nutrients from the endometrial tissue fluid, ensuring its development. And the entire process from fertilization to implantation takes 6 to 8 days.
Okay, and then the placenta, when the trophoblast implants into the uterine wall, the placenta it invades uterine wall, and what it does is that it creates a connection between the maternal and fetal blood cells, which allows for exchange of materials. So fetal wastes like CO2, urea, are taken into the maternal blood cells, and then nutrients and water and oxygen are transferred into the fetal blood cells, and that connects to the umbilical cord, which takes those materials to the baby. The placenta is also responsible for secreting progesterone and estrogen after the corpus luteum deteriorates. So the estrogen prepares the uterine muscles for contraction, and then also promotes the growth of the mammary glands or development of mammary glands. And then progesterone is responsible for maintaining the endometrial lining. So the baby can be protected. And then in birth, it's a positive feedback loop. So the initial stretching of the uterus causes stress, when the baby is around 9 months old. It releases estrogen, which increases the sensitivity to oxytocin, another hormone, and inhibits progesterone, which maintains the endometrial wall. And then when birth occurs, the baby stretches past a certain point, and oxytocin is released, causing a positive feedback loop because further contraction of the womb makes it a smaller space and continuous stretching. So contractions and release of oxytocin only stops when the baby leaves the womb.